Yeah. Hard. Militant minded, general 9 grip, grip with blades and a pen that can sharpen your spine's tip. Level headed, though my mind flips from side to side. With an acrobat's experience, after I stick it, I'm living down a demon possessed. Seems Jay's the best for the job with no code.
What's the word, y'all? It's KTR _podcast, hashtag KTR. We are KTR. We are in the building. This is Know the Rhodes podcast. And my brothers, how are y'all doing today?
Sleep deprived. That's all.
Yeah. You know, I'm used to going off about 5 hours of sleep, so I'd say I'm well rested.
Cool. Looks like you got a good amount of sleep. Look chipper and everything this morning. And I'm doing pretty fine myself. Thanks for asking. Yes, but today, this is episode 44 of KTR, hashtag KTR. It's been a minute, been busy, but we are back and we are in full grind mode again. Thank y'all for being patient with us. Thank y'all for working with us. And before we tune into this episode, be sure to do this one simple favor for us as well. Also, all social media platforms, KTR _podcast, Twitter, Instagram, Know the Rhodes Podcast, Facebook, YouTube, Know the Rhodes Podcast on all podcast platforms, Google Podcast, Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Podbean. We are on everything. And don't forget to get your merch at ProWrestlingTees.com/KTR podcast. Now let's get down to the nitty gritty and get into this episode real quick. First and foremost, before we dive into these topics that we have on hand right now, because we have a handful of stuff to talk about, but we're going to get through it real quick. First and foremost, I would like to say a big thank you to everybody that supported Black Wrestlers Matter St. Louis. This was our first show that we ever held in our lifetime. And it really was, to me personally, a success. The turnout was great. The stream buys were great. You can still purchase a stream too if you want to see it, because it been already happened this past weekend. But you want to see it, just go to blackwrestlingmatter.com and just purchase that stream. It's only $10. But shout out to everybody that supported. Shout out to the fans, shout out to our friends, shout out to our family, shout out to all the wrestlers on the match card. Shout out to all the sponsorships for the matches. Shout out to the media team that helped us out with everything. Shout out to the referees. Shout out to the ring announcer. Big shout out to my team with Big Harv and J-Bo on commentary. Shout out to John West of Black Wrestlers Matter brand for allowing us to utilize this brand in our hometown, the city. And big special thank you and shout out to Mike Outlaw, basically my other business partner for this event, because if it really wasn't for him, this event would not have happened.
That's real. Big love. Yes, sir.
Big love, big thank you and everything, because it was a big challenge, it was a big event. When we agreed to do this event, had no idea what we were getting ourselves into. And that in all honesty, I threw my podcast into the mix. They just went along with it. I'm glad they agreed to it, because I just said, okay, we good, but didn't really speak to them about if they want to do it or not, with all the things that are going on in their life right now with families and bringing new people in the family. But with that, I'm glad, I appreciate all their support. I appreciate the support from everybody that helped put this thing together. And especially when the event started, it was really all on me to help, keep the event going and produce it, because once it started, Mike Outlaw, he was actually in the show, so he was in wrestle mode. So I had to run the show backstage and everything, keep everything going and flowing. And I feel like everything went well. A couple things were just a little bit late, but we're Black, so we don't run CPT time, so it's all good. It's all love. Ain't no seriousness about it. But like I said, it was all fun. It's all love. It's all great. Like I said, thank you to everybody. Appreciate everything about that whole event all in one. And that's really all I gotta say. Because there were a lot of bumps in the road with producing this show, and I'll probably say the biggest scare and the most negative thing that happened along the way with getting this event together was actually renting the venue for the event, because the day before we were supposed to pay for the event, I had bank fraud on my account. All my money was taken out of my account the day before the money was due for this event.
Oh my.
And I was scared of that. Like, man, we might not have this event at all because of that. Shout out to the banks for getting that together for the accounts. Yeah, and we were able to get it going. But yeah, that's it. Y'all have anything to say about the event with Black Wrestling Matter St. Louis?
I'm pretty sure Harv will also piggyback off of this, but being on commentary, especially for the first time for the entire show, that was a hell of a load of fun. Being able to call wrestlers on their matches and being able to be analytical at the same time as being a fan in front of other people outside of the podcast, it was beyond fun. It was something I would definitely look forward to doing again.
Yeah, man, it was great. It was a great experience. Great atmosphere, good crowd. All the matches were really good. Everybody held up their end. I think it was a pretty good event. It was a great event. Very active crowd. Like, everybody showed love. It was good. Great experience.
Glad y'all appreciate it. Thank you. All right, let's get into these topics, man. Enough of the sappiness real quick. We're going to get into these topics real quick. Because it's been a minute since we've been talking about wrestling. It's probably been like 3 or 4 weeks. So with all that going on, we just going to get right down to the nitty gritty. Let's see here. We could just talk about like the most recent event that happened. Pretty much. Or no, we can say that later. Okay, let's dive into AEW real quick. Let's dive into AEW news real quick. First off, this did happen like a couple weeks ago, but no, we were a tad bit busy when everything was happening. But like Keith Lee has finally made his debut with All Elite Wrestling. He is now off his 90-day non-complete clause with the WWE, and now he is competing again, and now he is with AEW. Tell me, how do y'all feel about this new move for Keith Lee?
Big Harv, you start off on this one.
Yeah. I think it's a good move for Keith Lee. I don't know. It feels kind of lateral. It really depends on what AEW does. Because I've said this a couple times now in the past. I feel like they have a way too dense roster at this point, and they're just hiring people because those people need somewhere to go, and because they do have great potential to shine for AEW. But so many people are already lost in the shuffle. You know what I mean? Keith Lee is kind of interesting to me because it almost didn't even feel like the 90 days, mainly because of how in and out he was the whole time he was with WWE. He was there for a couple of weeks, then he got injured. He was there for a couple of weeks, then they doing the vignettes about him coming back, bring him back, then he's gone. So it happened pretty quick, and I'm happy for him. I just really hope that they capitalize on it because he is a one-of-a-kind athlete, one-of-a-kind talent in the ring.
So my sentiments are the same. First off, I do want to give a shout out to Keith Lee and his beautiful wife, Kim. They recently just got married a couple weeks ago. So shout out to them for that. I don't know. I want to be optimistic. I'm happy that Keith Lee is able to go over to AEW because he's able to do just as much as he did in NXT and on the independent circles, if not more, in front of a big crowd. My problem is exactly what Big Harv has. And this is not even Keith Lee's problem. It's honestly anybody's problem who comes over to AEW. The roster is so dense where you only have Dynamite, which is a 2-hour show. I'm sorry, you got Dynamite is a 2-hour show, and then you got Rampage, is a 1-hour show, and then you got Dark that has 20 or 30 matches, and the real diehard fans watch Dark, but not everybody, not the population that honestly wrestlers like Keith Lee and the following would need. I'm happy he's over there, but if we put shine on Keith Lee, then we won't be able to put shine on other wrestlers. If we put shine on, Pac, for example, he's going to be hot, but then it's going to be gone. Right now, Adam Cole, he's probably going to be consistent because he, with the Young Bucks and all that stuff. But even that can fade out just because of the number of wrestlers that AEW has. So I'm happy for Keith Lee. I think this is a great move for him. but the greatness of this move will only be validated by how long they actually use them for and what they use them for. Otherwise, you're just going to end up with a lot of new signings and just be hot for a second and he fades out.
Completely agree with both you two, what y'all said about this. Like I said, happy for first of all, congratulations to Keith Lee and Mia Yim for their marriage. And also with that, like I said, I'm happy for him that he did, get the job with AEW because everybody needs a job. Everybody needs to make money, make the world go around. But like I said, like it's always just that contrast because AEW roster is just so deep right now with so many people on it. You just don't want to get lost in the shuffle. Just it's basically just like the opposite of what WWE has with their not so much deep roster. There's always something wrong with having too many people or having not as many people that you need, and just got to find the in between. And also for the fact that the shows are not necessarily long enough. The main shows that are on the mainstream media, just down on cable TV is just not long enough. You just got a 1 hour show on Friday and a 2 hour show on Wednesday. Just need like a little bit more. Maybe just like make their Rampage a 2 hour show and just switch it up off of Friday because I don't really know who's going to be watching wrestling on Friday night like that. Maybe you're a big fan. I'm not mad at you. Go ahead, be my guest. But I'm not watching wrestling from 10 p.m. to 12 Eastern time zone. It'll work in the Western time zone because that's fine with me. That's 7 to 9. So that's perfect right before I go out. But anyway. Like I said, I just hope he doesn't just get lost in the fold and shuffle on that deep roster and becomes an afterthought and then just gets upset. And also, most importantly, it was a concern in the past, his health. I really just hope his health stays up to par and everything goes well in his career with wrestling and that everything is good to go, with his future endeavors within the wrestling business or whatever adventures that he may have in store for it, because he might do something on the side as well along with wrestling, because that's what the good thing about being with AEW, it gives you, it allows you freedom to do different avenues while working with that promotion company on that contract. So I do hope for and wish for the best for Keith Lee on that note. But another news, talking about AEW, we're going to talk about another AEW star. Well, actually, former AEW star, which threw a lot of people for a loop because he was there from the beginning. You would not have expected this. Cody Rhodes and his wife, Brandy, are now former AEW stars. That is correct. They have left AEW. They are out the building. They did not renew a contract or anything. They have dipped. Threw a lot of people for a loop. Caught me off surprise. Caught a lot of people by surprise because thinking well, weren't they there building the brand from the ground up? When it first started with Chris Jericho and John Moxley and the owners with the cons and everybody, it was weird because why would you think somebody that helped build something leave it? And everybody's trying to get an understanding of why this had happened and why did they decide to leave. Tell me your thoughts on that.
So yes, honestly, it did take me for a surprise. I would have thought Kenny Omega would have left before I thought Cody. I would even make an argument that I would think the Young Bucks would leave before Cody. And that's saying something because like Cinko, like you said, he's one of the pillars.
Right.
And it's kind of contradictory how much he downplayed the WWE. If the rumors are true that he is planning on going to the WWE. As an in-ring talent, Cody Rhodes, he's fun to watch in the ring. He definitely knows how to build a storyline, which is his thing. Cody Rhodes was known for building a story, while Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, was more into the wrestling piece of it. So I can see from that where there could be some type of dissension if they're going more one path and it's not what Cody or his wife Brandy was probably looking at. But still, it's a surprise. I do, however, want to talk on him going to the WWE if that rumor is true. If he goes back, he better get some money, number one, and he better have creative control. And I'm pretty sure he's not going to go over there if that's not the case. But if he goes back over there, sure, he will carry over the pop and everything that he's created in AEW. but it will not last long unless he has creative control. And I think that's going to probably be an issue between him and creative down the line, especially if that's one of the main reasons he left in the first place. But I don't know. Yeah, the whole AEW thing definitely did throw me off. I think obviously if he does want to continue a career in wrestling, he'll be perfectly fine. If he goes back to the WWE, fine. But in order for that to work, he needs to have creative control. He also needs to realize his fans in WWE are not the same fans as in AEW. Okay, AEW is ruthless. WWE panders more towards the family crowd, and I don't know if that's the type of crowd Cody will want to go back into long term. Heck, this may not even be a long term move. But if the rumors are true in the WWE, that's going to be a very interesting development coming from being one of the main guys in AEW. I'm done.
Big Harv.
Oh man, I have nothing but conspiracy theories. I'm gonna keep them to myself. It's a big surprise, man. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. If, as J-Bo kept saying, if the rumors of him going to WWE are true, if he's just taking a break from wrestling business or he has other things he wants to venture into, that's more understandable. But how hard he put over AEW and how hard he was going at WWE then, and the fact that his return really wouldn't do anything for his career. I feel like the roster is really thin right now at the top to the point that they might guarantee him creative control, title shots, things like that. But they've reneged on stuff like that in the past for people too. All right, people have turned right back around and left just because of similar situations. So I don't know. I'm completely baffled by this one. I don't know what's going on. Honestly, don't. I'm hoping that he's really just taking a break. Venturing off, trying something new. But if he end up in WWE, we'll see. We'll see. I don't feel like he's WWE type star talent. I don't feel like he'll still get over the way that he feels like he will if he goes back. He helped build AEW. It was really built for him and the type of control and the type of character that he likes to show. So I don't know. It's weird move. We'll see.
Yeah, Harv. I mean, yeah, it's the same thing. Yeah, it's a different crowd. The energy that, like you said, he built over in AEW is not going to be the same as the one that's already built in the WWE. That's why if he goes over, it's not going to be long term. There's no way it's going to be long term. Sensibly. And yeah, it's still contradictory, dude. Like Harv, like you said, he hit so hard on how tragic he was, and then how you go over there and you get used, and his banter is not real wrestling. And if he ends up signing, it's like, dude, like you was on that BS, man. Like everything.
And then look at everything that's happened since he left. How they cleaned house of everybody, basically that's really talented in ring, like you claim that is important to you. And how you go back to like a barren wasteland. I don't understand, man. I don't get it.
If he would have stayed in AEW, that would have actually proved his point even more because of the changes that took place in the WWE. But if he goes back, it's like, man, okay, nah, that's a mess.
Yeah, you was really just kind of bitter because you wasn't on top. That's what if you go back, that's what it's gonna look like. Like you left and built this out of sheer bitterness. And now they stroking your ego a little bit. Now you'll come back. Like I hope that's not the case. We'll see. I don't know.
With that, like I agree with everything y'all saying about this, because for me, if he does go to WWE, I don't think it will be in a wrestling role, just due to the fact he doesn't fit the new way that how WWE wants to put over wrestlers. Because I'm no offense, Cody Rhodes and all the greatness he has done with AEW and how he proved the WWE wrong of how he could be a top star, they just wouldn't allow him to be a top star in the WWE. Not saying he couldn't be one, but the WWE probably would not allow him to be a top star just basically based off the fact of his look. That's it. That's really it. They puts people over just by their look and how they sway the crowd and everything, charisma. And just like Cody Rhodes physically just doesn't have that build that they're looking for, with the body type. Because look who the two top champions right now, Lesnar and Reigns. And who was before that? Bobby Lashley. Like they looking for those size guys right now. Because if that was the case, AJ Styles probably be champion again, or Finn Balor will be a champion again, or but you haven't seen them in the title picture since they won the title for the first time and got knocked out.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and those are basically top tier stars right there to make. AJ Styles probably one of the best wrestlers in the world, top 5 currently, and he's not on the world title picture at all. So, like, that just goes to show, like, if he does go to WWE, I feel like it would be more on the business side, like I said, with backstage work or doing something maybe with NXT or just working with the main roster. I just don't view him being on a wrestling card with WWE just because of how the WWE is moving currently with these days. And it's just like no offense to him, but like that's just how it is. That's how I view it with how WWE is moving right now.
Cinko, you made a great point, because even back when, like during his time in the WWE, back when CM Punk was the champion, Daniel Bryan was the champion, they gave Rhodes literally every different kind of character possible. He excelled in all those characters, and he still wasn't heavyweight champion. He still wasn't in main events. So yeah, like even nowadays where you got guys like either Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar, Bobby Lashley, or the new younger guys like Braun Breaker, they're trying to bring up Cody. You're right. He does not fit in that particular mode. So it's probably more producer or behind the scenes, or if it's on screen, it has to be temporary. You're right.
Exactly. That's how I feel about it right now. And speaking of, since we're talking about the WWE now, transition from AEW to WWE, WrestleMania season's coming up now, and we have our main event more than likely for our Sunday night match to end off WrestleMania weekend. Champion versus champion. Lesnar versus Reigns. How do y'all feel about this title for title match and the possibility of them combining those 2 world titles into one world title for the WWE?
Yawn. Who cares? Boo. Hiss. It's trash. They ain't got what else are they gonna do at this point? I mean, it's all come to a head for everything we basically been talking about. They don't have anything else they could do. Those are their 2 top guys by far. Or you repeat with Orton, or you repeat with Lesnar. I mean with Lashley, or you repeat with McIntyre, or you repeat with Rollins. That's all you got. They got the same people. Like you said, they're not going with the smaller guys anymore. Balor's not going to cut it. AJ Styles not going to cut it. Rollins barely cuts it right now. Kevin Owens, they haven't really shown any main event love. Like it's that thin in their eyes as far as who they have, that at this point, one world title really who it wouldn't be surprised. It's not a big jump. They've done it before. They do it every few years. They make this big deal about separating the brands, separating the titles. Then they have a united title, and then they separate again. I feel like it's boring to me. I'm not excited about this match at all. I'm not excited about the concept. I'm not excited about that main event for WrestleMania in the least. Not excited about it. That's the most disappointing match since they announced Cena and The Rock for the second time. That's disappointing.
Now, hold on. We're not going to disrespect Cena real.
We are. That's how disappointing it is. I said it. I meant it. The second time, it did it twice. Right. First time it made more sense. Right. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. Let's to look at this from a perspective lens, however you want to put it. Them putting the same guys in the main event, it's not too far-fetched. Doesn't mean it's good. But yeah, they did it with The Rock and John Cena. They did it with The Rock and Stone Cold. Like they're used to having their 2 biggest stars go at it. My problem is that just about every main event that they had with each other, especially at WrestleMania, it wasn't like match of the night caliber. Let's start there. Secondly, the build that took place for this match was absolutely positively not necessary. If you, like Harv said, you ain't got nobody. So if you had to just go down to these 2 wrestlers, fine, but the build was not necessary. First off, Brock Lesnar, we all know how dominant Brock Lesnar is. He has been dominant for years. He did not need to win the Royal Rumble to show that he was dominant. He did not need to win the Elimination Chamber to show that he is dominant. He does not need all these extra accolades that does positively, expeditiously nothing to his career. On top of the fact, you give him the belt again for him and Roman Reigns to unify the belts at WrestleMania. Look, I'm going to be pulled for Roman Reigns, but even as great as Roman Reigns has been doing, he does not need both belts. Brock Lesnar clearly does not need both belts. They're doing so much extra that they don't even need. First off, like Harv said, no one really cares about this match, but you're forcing people to care about this match by adding all these other athletes that could have went to somebody else. Now, just because they're putting both belts on the line does not mean they're actually unifying them. They did that with the women's titles, and Becky Lynch eventually lost the SmackDown belt and whatever have you. But still, no matter which way to go from this, it doesn't help nobody. Absolutely nobody. Just probably business sales and merchandise sales. I don't know. It's just the build was not necessary. Main event is not necessary, and now WrestleMania is going to suffer because of it. Again,
Brock Lesnar must have one hell of a contract. Because now think about it, like all his matches literally involves him winning something of a high magnitude. Every match he's involved in requires him defending a title, winning the title, or just getting an accolade like the Royal Rumble or Money in the Bank.
An opportunity for the title.
Exactly. So every match he's had is like for a title. I'm trying to think when was the last time he just had like a regular one-on-one match just cause of a feud or a build-up. And I'm not sure it's maybe because they think maybe he's just one-dimensional and not sure if you could build a story up. Greg, Brock Lesnar has been a bit entertaining in recent months since he's been alone. I'm not going to lie. But I think just because of the fact, he's probably best, at those promos because when it involves trying to win something or defend something, I'm not sure how he would be when it comes to like developing a storyline, just going one-on-one with somebody, building that for months. So
yes, you can. Yes, you can. With somebody like, look, if we're going down the route of Brock Lesnar having this, first off, like you said, Cinko, recently he has shown he is good decently on the mic where he can build something. Plus, he had Paul Heyman by his beck and side for the past 2 decades. Like, he does not need everything he's been given just to build him up. So he can do a good storyline eventually for the belt on his line. And then plus, if you want to make money off Lesnar, you don't have to put him in a title match. You could put him in a great feud with somebody. Hell, they did that in the beginning with John Cena when he came back. They did it again with Triple H. No belt involved, and there was still just as interest into a feud. Now that you're shoving a championship goal, now both championship goals down our throat just to have us believe into this Brock Lesnar storyline, again, it's overkill.
He should be a novelty match at all these events, though, when you look at it. He should be like a gatekeeper. For real. He has no point in winning all these accolades to add on to his career. Everybody knows who he is. He makes the most money in the company. He has the least amount of matches in the company. And then when you think about what the match is going to be like you said, it's not going to be a top match of the night caliber match. It's going to be Brock Lesnar suplexing the hell out of Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns attempting to come back. Brock Lesnar suplexing the hell out of Roman Reigns. Spears and F5s. It's going to be like less 10 moves between two guys in their match. It's not going to be a long match. It's not going to have a climax where it reaches a high tense point and the crowd is on the edge of the seat. None of that's going to happen. He should literally just be facing up and comers who they don't have anymore because they don't build nobody. But that should be his point in the company. You pay him the same either way. Mm-hmm. Either way. It's ridiculous, man. It really
don't forget
is.
About possibly breaking of the barricade too. That's also a possibility.
Yeah, the barricade, but it's either gonna be with a spear or with all right. It's gonna be one of those. He's gonna see the barricade. Still one of the moves. One of the 10. I cut it at 5, but I'm giving them a little space. All right.
And even if we try to look at this from a business standpoint, you cannot tell me that he's making more money from having a championship match with Reigns than having a built-up feud match with, like, I don't know, a grudge match with Lashley at WrestleMania. You can't tell me that there's so much of a financial difference that he has to be in the main event. Like you said, Cinko, it has to be in his contract or something for him to be.
He like, I ain't wrestling for y'all unless a title is involved in every match I'm in.
That's crazy.
And there's so many matches that people look forward to other than the title matches. Undertaker matches. Shawn Michaels would have matches that weren't for the title. You know what I mean? What happened? What happened, dog? I'm lost. It's confusing. I'm so lost during this episode of the podcast.
It's funny that you mentioned these.
Got me lost. WWE got me.
It's funny that you mentioned these legends because one legend, The Undertaker, is now finally, after all these years, it's about damn time, going into the WWE Hall of Fame.
Okay.
Obviously well deserved, well needed, long time coming, should happen a long time ago. But he didn't want to retire yet. But yeah, let's say big shout out to Undertaker and everything, all his accolades that he's done, all the accomplishments that he has acquired in his career. And yeah, that's pretty much what I gotta say about it. How y'all feel about the Undertaker going to the Hall of Fame?
I'm gonna say two things and I'll throw it to Harv. Number one, to me, the Hall of Fame is prestigious, but it's also not. I don't know. It took away lackluster. I don't know. I started to care less about the Hall of Fame ever since they put Drew Carey in there.
I was trying to stem away from the topic of the Hall of Fame because I really wanted to talk about it, but we ain't got that much time to talk about it. My personal opinion, I feel like the Hall of Fame is a little bit oversaturated. They should have like a little requirement or rules with that and limit the amount of people that they put in because they just threw in all the heavy hitters in the beginning, and now they getting towards the end like, damn, we're running out of people now.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I guess that's my thing. It's just that now it's just like every so often you make it a good person, but that's my whole thing. But the second thing is, this is my opinion. I think with as big as The Undertaker is in comparison to the other Hall of Fame inductees they've had, the impact that he has had over the years, I personally think that the Hall of Fame should honestly just focus around The Undertaker. Like really, just have him. Because anyone else, I mean, it'll be nice. You have subcategories and all that. But, I mean, just because of how big Undertaker is, WWE would not be the WWE without what Undertaker has done. I think he's one of those offsettings where it's like, if you want to give somewhat more prestige to the Drew Carey, Donald Trump Hall of Fame that we currently have, give this one to him. Give this one to the Undertaker. Make it about him. He's deserved it. It'll definitely make sense and it'll make it worthwhile.
I think it might be actually because they're advertising about the Hall of Fame induction ceremony after SmackDown the day before WrestleMania. It was just only mentioned the Undertaker. I haven't heard anybody mention for the Hall of Fame yet or next. And shoot, WrestleMania is literally like within a month. Yeah.
It's still early, but I mean, let's say that is true, then that's good. And it'll be well deserved if it's just him. That's all you need right now. Yeah.
Big Harv.
I agree. But basically, like you were saying, that it's oversaturated. So I agree if they do slow it down and have a one-person Hall of Fame night. But when you think about it, it's kind of too late for them to try to slow up and hold back, because in like 10 years, who else are they going to have to nominate and put in the Hall of Fame? Because they do like between 8 and 12 people a year usually.
Yeah, they really dropped the ball on that because
when you think about it, legends aren't being made like they used to be.
Right.
And
the way they're dropping people now is just like, but yeah. But like I said, that's why I was going off like that. Like when they first started this, they should just limit that number to like 4 or 5 people a Hall of Fame to make it more special, because Hall of Fame classes were really deep at a time. Like, okay, you got all these heavy hitter and hard hitters at first. Okay, like your first show, it should be like, okay, who are basically the best wrestlers that you have all time that you think should go in first, and just go off of that, and have people wait their turn. It like shoot. By this time, you could have people like, who would be like you probably had Kane, the Undertaker in this whole thing, like right them by themselves, like with other wrestlers, like they could have held this off. You could have had this one just like a bunch of like Texas wrestlers, include like I get Booker T and then something like that, all meet.
They just set it up where they had like one main event guy or like super star type cat, one tag team or manager, second tier guy, and then one girl, one female.
Right. I agree. Like one tag team, one woman.
Yeah. But sprinkle celebrities.
Two superstars and the big guy, the big person. Yeah.
Headliner.
Yeah. I completely agree.
That way you limit it to like 5 people max.
Right. It makes a lot of sense, and that's what they should have done again. But like I said, it is too late now. And with that is all the time we have for episode 44 of KTR _podcast, hashtag KTR. We are KTR. Thank y'all for tuning in with us. Like I said, thank y'all for the support. Thank y'all for the love that y'all show for Black Wrestlers Matter. Thank y'all for the love and support y'all just show for our podcast. Me, Big Harv, and J-Bo appreciate everything that y'all do for us, and we are extremely grateful. But before we sign off, we got to do this one simple favor for us real quick. Follow us on all social media platforms, KTR _podcast, Twitter, Instagram, Another Rose Podcast, Facebook, YouTube, Another Rose Podcast, all podcast platforms, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Podbean. We are on everything. And don't forget to get your merch at prowrestlingtees.com/KTR podcast. This is episode 44, KTR, hashtag KTR, Another Rose Podcast, and we are out.
What should they do, Big Harv?
Wait, is screen frozen? Harv. Is it? Wait. His screen's frozen. Well, this threw off the whole ending. Well,
you pass it to me. I'll end it off.
All right. J-Bo, what should they do?
Buy our merch. Pump those numbers.
There we go. Y'all, if y'all listen to this on Anchor, Apple Podcast, y'all should just tune in to YouTube and look at his face. It really got frozen at the end.
Numbers, letters, all symbols of man-made devices that could cripple us all. Improve we can panicking when storm hits and knocks out the power grid. Are you fully prepared to live off the grid? How you think?